So this is the final section of the immuno application, section 5. First question is, you'd most likely give anti-IL-5 to which of the following patients? A transplant patient. Well, first of all, let's go back. So anti-IL-5, so essentially trying to suppress IL-5. What does IL-5 do? It increases the expression of eosinophils. So in other words, when do you want to eliminate eosinophils? Well, where are they involved? They're involved in parasitic infection clearance. That's probably not a good idea to get rid of your eosinophils if you have a parasite. Or they're also involved in allergic reactions, right? They get eventually recruited to the scene of the crime in that particular case. So we're probably going to think more like you want to get rid of some kind of allergy. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're reading the answers. So a transplant patient, no, that's not going to have anything to do with that. B, a patient with a helminth infestation. Well, yeah, that, eosinophilia has to do with that, but you wouldn't want to get rid of them. C, an asthmatic patient. Yes, that sounds good. That's the correct answer. Or D, to prevent hemolytic disease of the newborn. No, that's not going to do that. In that case, you would want an antibody essentially to whatever antibody, an antibody to the antibody that the mother had produced, which we can go into later. Question number 2 is clinical trials are targeting CTLA-4. Which of the following patients would benefit from an anti-CTLA-4 antibody? In other words, it's a monoclonal antibody to CTLA-4, so it inactivates CTLA-4. So if you remember what CTLA-4 does is, that's going to be the molecule that instead of it's going to bind on the antigen presenting cells, CD8086 /B7-12. Okay, so when it's this T cell B cell interaction, and on the T cell you have the CD28, that's the co-stimulator. Okay, but no, it's not the co-stimulator, it's the one that puts it in reverse, so TLA-4. So if you wanted to make an antibody to this, to where you're not going to be able to have the interaction between CTLA-4 and CD8086 because you got a big fat antibody sitting on this, I'm just sort of characterizing it, when would that be useful? So the question is asking a time where you really want your immune system to be tweaked. You don't want it to be suppressed, okay? So have that in mind when you read the following questions. A, melanoma patients. That sounds good because melanoma is cancer. And we know that T-mediated immunity can help clear cancer, particularly as it starts to punch out those CD8 cytotoxic T cells. So that's a good answer. Let's go with that one, but let's continue. B is patients with Hashimoto's disease. Hashimoto's is a T-cell mediated, cell-mediated autoimmunity. We don't want to do that. We don't want to suppress the very mechanism designed to regulate an already badly gone wild cells acting badly, doing too much immune behavior. Okay. C is APE-CD patients. I'm not going to even try to express what the acronym is, but essentially those patients get in that situation because of an autoimmune situation, as I recall, the AIR protein. So you have a lot of endocrinopathies associated with that. Again, you don't want to turn this off. You want to increase the regulation by increasing that. So that's a bad answer. D, transplant patients. Similarly, a lot of transplant rejection, we're going to get to that section in a moment, but transplant rejection can be cell-mediated. So again, you want more regulation of that cell-mediated response because otherwise you can just chew up that and attack that new organ and therefore reject the transplant. And then, so the answer is going to be, in this particular case, the answer is going to be A, melanoma patients, because yes, in fact, you would want to suppress the suppressor. Okay. Number 3, is your patient is entered into a clinical trial to enhance immune recognition of her tumor antigen. So this therapy would include what? So what we're looking for is immune recognition. All right, so and again, this is what they call translational medicine, where you're using this immunology to treat specific diseases. A, GM-CSF, no, that's just a growth factor for your granulocyte monocytes. B, IL-7, no, that's not immune recognition, that's a growth factor for your lymphocytes, B cells, T cells, NK cells. C, IL-3, no, that's just a hemopoietic, overall catch-all growth factor. D, interferon gamma, no, that's macrophage activating factor. It also pushes Th1. E, pulsed dendritic cells. That's the answer. Now, this is something, again, that, probably, do you have to know every detail about this? No, but you should know that why the other ones are not correct. But a pulsed dendritic cell, I love the dendritic cells. I think of them kind of like these little bloodhounds. So what happens is you pull a patient's dendritic cells out. And then you introduce, and you pull a patient, the cancer cells out too. And then you introduce the dendritic cells to the cancer cell. It's almost like taking somebody who's lost in the woods, and you give them, you give the bloodhound that shirt, and then they're like, got it. And then they go out and they look and they try to find it. It's similar to that. And then what happens is the dendritic cell gets put back into the patient. And now he's very smart about that cancer cell. And he's going to present like a crazy man to all these T cells in order to get a more robust and more specific T cell response for that particular cancer. That's the way I understand it. Number 4 is your patient is being treated with Zolar. Another name for Zolar is omalizumab, okay, which has that ZU in it for Zulu. And that's an anti-IgE drug that is a recombinant DNA derived from human, because it's got that ZU monoclonal antibody. So what does your patient have? You don't have to know anything about the drug. All you have to know is that it's anti-IgE. So when would you want an anti-IgE drug? Well, A, chronic parasitic infections. No, again, you don't, IgE is going to help you clear parasitic infections, so you don't want to take IgE out of that fight. B, moderate to severe asthma. Yes, that would be a great answer. And that's the correct answer. C, graft rejection. No, remember we're talking about T-cell mediated immunity. And D is SLE. No, that's the SLE is immunopathology, but it has nothing to do with IgE. Number 5 is, which of the following cytokines would help a patient who is immuno incompetent? Okay, so you want to increase the immune system because this guy doesn't have enough. So IL-10, absolutely not, because that is, as we know, suppresses Th1. It's the party pooper cytokine. B, IL-4, no, that's going to push a Th2 response. C, TGF-beta, no, that's going to also part of the Th2 response. It's not going to help you with immuno-incompetency. D, IL-21. IL-21, remember, is part of the Th17 cytokines that actually are instrumental in fighting, infections, particularly fungal infections. And, the bad side of it is too much Th17 can be implicated in inflammation, autoinflammatory diseases. But the good side of it is it does increase the immune system. So that's going to be the right answer. And E is IL-5. No, eosinophils are not going to do a whole lot for you in terms of, helping you clear pathogens. Because it's just, like you say, apart from your helminths, they would, but otherwise, no. Number C, keep doing the letters there, 6. Which of the following therapies, an increase in this cytokine, would help a cancer patient? Okay, so you want to think about, I didn't really say clearly what kind of cancer patient, but bear with me, and which of these is not like the other. Okay, GM-CSF, okay, that's definitely, yes, the right answer. Because remember that cancer chemotherapy, as we know it now, for the most part, it kills everybody, okay? It's not particularly intelligent, apart from these new immuno-based therapies. So you end up killing cells that divide rapidly. We all know that. And remember that your little friends in the immune system are very active cells. And so they oftentimes die in the case of chemotherapy, and therefore your chemo patients are susceptible to infection, etc. So the way you can replenish those cells is by giving them the growth factor for those cells, which is the CSF, colony stimulating factor, GM, granulocyte monocyte. So that's going to be helpful, and of course there's drugs that do that. IL-10, no, we've already talked about those other options in detail in another question. So the answer is A. Number 7 is the following cell mediates the pathology of chronic idiopathic urticaria. So who mediates this pathology? Well, you know that it's a issue with allergy, and so the answer is looking for mast cells. A, cutaneous mast cell would be a great answer. The dendritic cell, you know, you try to think, okay, is the dendritic cell ever implicated in a pathology? Well, we talked about HIV piggybacks on him, but it's not like a dendritic cell gone bad or something like that. He's just sort of a innocent bystander, sort of like the guy who, you know, the criminal gets in his car and tells him to drive somewhere. I mean, that's kind of how the dendritic cell is implicated in this HIV story. Or it is infected himself, unfortunately. We know that. So the dendritic cell, the other place is kind of interesting is remember that the dendritic cell is sitting in the tissue, right, in the gut, you know, basically. And then he puts his little tentacles up into the lumen and he samples something up there and he comes down and has a look at it to see if it's bad or not. Now, you could imagine a case where you had a retarded, you know, like a less than particularly competent dendritic cell that might recognize something that's pathogenic in that gut, present it, and then you could get some autoimmunity. But apart from that, the dendritic cells are pretty safe as far as the immune system, as far as cells go. B cells, well, you could have cancer, you could have a monoproliferation, but that's not gonna, you know, that has nothing to do with urticaria. I'm just saying what sort of things can go wrong with B cells. So you could get monoclonal proliferation, aka cancer, or you could have not enough of them. D, T cells, again, you can have T cells acting to reject things or B cells acting to create bad antibodies. So I'm just sort of going through some of the different pathologies, but neither one of them would cause urticaria. Number 8 is your patient suffers from edema initially localized to the lips. What is being activated to cause this edema? Okay, I'm going to move a little quicker here, and you go through INOS. No, that's a reactive oxygen species. Neutrophils. Neutrophils are going to, you know, spew out all those different cytokines, and they're going to have reactive oxygen species, but it doesn't cause edema. C5a, yes, eventually will cause the release of histamine, and that is a vasoactive, but it's not what's mediating this particular edema. Bradykinin is also vasoactive. It's also going to cause pain, but not in this case the edema. And E, kallikrein, that's the correct answer. So kallikrein is going to, remember, it's going to split that C5 into C5a. And if you want to inhibit kallikrein, you need that C1 esterase inhibitor. So people with angioedema don't have C1 esterase inhibitor, and therefore they have too much kallikrein. So if you knew that fact, you'd get it straight away as well. A is increased CD59. No, that's not correct. That's related to regulation of complement. Number 9 is, it is not, true or false, it is not advised to give inactivated vaccine to a patient who has recently had a transplant. That's true. You don't want to give even an inactivated vaccine to a transplant patient. Number 10, which of the following vaccines is the best for a patient who is immunocompromised? A, inactivated vaccine, we just answered that. That's a bad answer. B, DNA, yes, that's good. C, you know, live would have to be incorrect. And D, it is not advised to vaccinate an immunocompromised patient. You can give them a DNA vaccine. Which would be the answer B. Number 11 is your patient suffers from vasculitis. Okay, what's that? That's inflammation of the blood vessels. Okay, and well, it says it, inflammation of the endothelium. Which of the following would be activated? So A is the extrinsic coagulation pathway. No, it's actually the intrinsic pathway, which is B, and C, Hageman factor, which is factor 12. We talked about that in inflammation, and just now we kind of reviewed that pathway with regard to kallikrein and how that process works. Number 12, so the answer is D, B, and C above. Number 12 is your patient is positive for hepatitis B antigen. Okay, I don't say anything about hepatitis B antibody, just the antigen. And they also have anti-hepatitis A antibody. So this suggests what? So this is a great question, because you get these kind of questions all the time. So if you have an antigen, that means in your body, then that means you got infected. If they don't say anything about an antibody, then that means you still you have that active infection right now. So that's what we know. They have active hepatitis B. If you have an anti-hepatitis A antibody, they don't say anything about anything else. It's just you have an antibody, then okay, you have immunity to that particular pathogen. Now in the case of hepatitis A antibody, it means that you had previous exposure and you mounted an immune response. Now your previous exposure could be like you got infected from drinking bad water or food, or it could mean that you got vaccinated, either one. So the answers, the good answers are A, active hepatitis B, because you had the hepatitis B surface antigen, and B, previous exposure to hepatitis A. That's true. And C, do you have immunity to hepatitis B? Absolutely not, because it doesn't say anything there about antibodies. Okay, so you're not gonna have any kind of immunity. 13 is measuring C3, C4 levels would most useful in monitoring what? So what are the C3, C4 levels is, are you using up the complement proteins? All right, because remember the complement proteins of the classical pathway. So if you don't have any of those complement proteins, that means you're activating complement left and right. You're using them up. So the question is, what diseases use up complement? And the answer would be, as we look through this, A, SLE, that's a good one. And we'll explain that in type 3 hypersensitivity in just a moment, but SLE is the correct answer. B, SCID patient, no, that's B and T cell mediated. That has nothing to do with complement. C, chronic granulomatous disease patient, no, that's NADPH oxidase deficiency. D, Bruton's patient, no, remember that's the tyrosine kinase deficiency. True or false, Goodpasture requires a second exposure to the offending agent in order to elicit an immune response. No, what happens in this case is your body mistakenly mistakes the basement membrane, say in your lung or in your kidney, for a bad guy, and it creates an antibody straight away. That's an antigen-antibody mediated pathology. It's called type 2 hypersensitivity, and we'll get to it in just a moment. You don't need a second exposure. That's describing type 1, which would be like allergic with IgE. You eat a peanut, and then you create these IgEs, ultimately isotype switching, and then later you eat another peanut. That's your second exposure, and in Wapanga you get the anaphylaxis. Okay, but Goodpastures is not that. It's just you get exposed, you create an antibody, and it's there. All right. Number 15, your patient presents with angioedema. Blocking the following would be contraindicated. Okay, so you don't want to block this if a patient has angioedema. A, C1 inhibitor protein. Great answer. Okay, yeah, if they already have a deficiency in this, so you don't want to block it, right? So that's the right answer. If you blocked metalloproteases, those bore through that type 4 collagen in the basement membrane. That's what that does. Kallikrein, we already talked about how it splits C5 and it gets into your kininogen and splits off into bradykinin, and it's vasoactive. Piperidin stabilizes the C3 convertase. For the alternative, B is again a regulatory for complement. Number 16 is This is a little tricky, but it's important to see the distinction of how these questions can be asked. So, which of the following would you use to treat a patient with rheumatoid arthritis? Okay, so rheumatoid arthritis is kind of a combination of some cell-mediated immunity, okay, and so what would you treat them with? And in other words, they have too much immunity. So A is CTLA-4 Ig. In other words, you basically create a molecule that's like CTLA-4, and it binds, it very cleverly binds, if you have a macrophage, it very cleverly binds the CD80-86, right? They would normally try to bind to your T cell, CD28, right? But instead, the macrophage binds to your little immunoglobulin, your little fake CTLA-4, which is a regulatory molecule, remember, from the T cells that suppresses. It doesn't put it in forward, it puts it in reverse. The co-stimulation puts it in reverse instead. So in this case, the answer is A, CTLA-4 immunoglobulin, a soluble fusion molecule. Okay, interferon gamma, no, that would increase your problem. IL-2 would increase your problem. IL-6 would increase your problem because you would increase C-reactive protein, which would enable that whole adhesion, etc. story, and those macrophages to get in there and cause a lot of problem in your joints in terms of immunopathology. Number 17 is, what would CTLA-4 immunoglobulin bind to on the antigen presenting cell? I just covered that right here, but I didn't answer the other two. So it's all of the above, because all those molecules mean the same thing. Number 18 is a young boy with recurrent staph aureus infections, pyogenic means pus, okay, most likely has which of the following deficiencies? We went through this pretty carefully a while ago. A, B cell, no. It's staph, right? It's a granulocyte disorder because you're having a problem more likely with NADPH oxidase. So B is the answer, granulocyte. Combined immunodeficiency, no. That's specific to B cell, T cell, both. And then D, T cell immunity, no. If you had T cell immunity, you'd have a lot more than just staph infections. That would be more like HIV. Number 19, patients are given an anti-CD11A antibody. On the basis of this, you would expect that all of the following play a role in their disease, except for what? Okay, so CD11A is an adhesion molecule. So T cells, right? TNF, that increases that, so that would, that would be part of it. So we're looking for an exception. CCL11, that's an eosinophil chemotactic. So that's the answer. It has nothing to do with adhesion. It's just an eosinophilic chemotactic. So that's an answer. And the others would have something to do with it. Last question is number 20. Your patient suffers from ankylosing spondylitis. He will likely test positive for what? Is it going to be A, HLA B27? Okay, remember HLA, the B27 is going to be a MHC class 1 molecule. So in other words, he's got an MHC class 1 molecule that's not behaving correctly because his body is recognizing it as non-self and he's starting to create an immunopathology. That is the correct answer. B, anti-Smith antibodies, that would be true for lupus. And C is rheumatoid factor. That would be true for rheumatoid arthritis. Most of the time. It's not mandatory to have that, but it's often present. And the reason why they always test HLA-B27 is because it's the one MHC molecule. A lot of diseases are associated with the body mistaking an MHC class molecule for a bad guy and attacking that and therefore causing immunopathology. Many do, but something like 90% of the people with ankylosing spondylitis have this particular form, this HLA-B27. So it's the strongest correlation with regard to MHC class 1 molecules and immunopathology, and that's why they frequently test it. Thank you very much.